I set out thinking I was doing a one-night passage, and instead I'm doing a 1,500-mile passage. Goodbye, French Polynesia! So I just drived over for Fiji. The Cook Islands are getting another north wind in the coming days. There's a couple concerns I have. One is that I'm only half full on drinking water, because I thought I would go to the Cooks and there's water on the dock, it's really easy to get it. The other is that I don't really have very many freshies. Also, I'll be fine, I'll survive. Less important than drinking water. It is the first nice morning of my whole trip. I'm having breakfast outside. The wind is sort of curling around to be on my quarter, which is really nice for the head sail. I don't need to be pulled out. I have thrown a bucket of water to take a shower later on. I always put it in my blue bucket and let it sit for a couple hours so it gets warm by the heat of the sun. Definitely need a shower today. I think the weather might be turning nice for the next couple days, or at least for this morning, and that's all I can ask for. I'm clean. The weirdest feeling is, so I obviously use salt water to bathe because fresh water is an issue for me. But pouring salt water over my head, I'm used to taking saltwater showers where I jump in the ocean, but whenever something is getting dumped over my head in a shower capacity, I always expect it to be fresh, so it's always a little bit of a nasty surprise. But anyway, I feel amazing. This is just beautiful weather, beautiful, 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 and I'm so clean. I've just rigged up the whisker pole and put up my big head sail. The wind is dropping and due to continue dropping for the next couple days. Tomorrow it should be in the 10 knots range, which is pretty light, so I figured I'm setting myself up for the next few days, hopefully without many sail changes except maybe the odd squall. I've also rigged up my little sunshade in the cockpit to make cockpit tent city out here. Squalls at night when I have my big head sail pulled out on the whisker pole are probably one of my bigger fears and one of the bigger reasons that I don't sleep well. I have just come up with a new system that I'm kind of proud of that I think is going to work pretty well for getting the head sail down quickly if I wake up to a squall. The first thing I do is to actually secure the whisker pole fore and aft so that even if the sail isn't attached to it, it can stand out on its own on the boat. The second thing I do is a leeward jib sheet running through the quick release on the end of the whisker pole and running all the way back to the cockpit. Now the modification that I've made is to tie a second sheet to the end of the sail. This one is what I call a lazy sheet, which means that I'm not actually using it. As I run it over the top of the whisker pole, through the same block on the deck of my boat and back to the cockpit. The other thing that I do is I have the halyard that raises and lowers the whisker pole running aft to the cockpit. Now I'm all set up for a squall to come. If this happens, the first thing I do is release the halyard holding the whisker pole, which means that it's going to slowly lower down onto the lifelines. Then I loosen the active sheet while I tighten the lazy sheet. Since I ran the lazy sheet over the whisker pole, now that the pole is lower, it is as though the head sail is no longer on the whisker pole at all. I can release it like it is normally when I'm not running downwind with it pulled out, get it onto the deck, and have it all stowed away for the squall. If I try to lower it with the end of the sail attached to the whisker pole, what happens is that the whole thing just falls in the water and it's a terrible mess. I don't quick release the sheet that's in the end of the whisker pole because then I would have to take the pole off to reset the whole thing. That's why I have the two sheets that I can work with to maneuver the sail over the boat so that I can then do a quick drop. This is something that was pointed out to me from a friend I had do an overnighter with me, where we had the whisker pole out. I tie the whisker pole off fore and aft so that when the sail is down, the whisker pole is just set and it can be on its own for however long it wants to be. He was surprised because he said that when they have to take the sail down, they wake everyone up and they all go out and do everything together. Which is really different for me because obviously I can't do that. So it was just a cool little insight into, you know, I learned ocean sailing on yachts on my boat. The way I do things is the way I assume everyone else does things, and it was really interesting to have someone on board tell me that what I do is actually uniquely something that only a solo sailor would do. It would be interesting to sail more with another person who had a lot of experience sailing on other boats, because up to this point my other friends have sort of, they're sailors but they're not like ocean sailors, because I'm really curious to see what other things I do on my boat that are just things that I do only because I don't have someone else to help me with them. But that would mean giving up the magic of being at sea by myself. On really nice nights, I like to sleep outside in the cockpit, and tonight there's not a lot of wind. My sails are flogging a little bit, which the noise of which is definitely amplified down below. So I'm making my bed in the cockpit because I want to lie on my back and look at the stars. Cozy, cozy, cozy. It's almost 4 in the morning. There was just a big squall. The wind's been slowly dying all night. And now I'm in a patch. I'm sort of in a blank spot in the middle of a bunch of squalls with no wind at all. As you can hear, I took down my head sail. I've sheeted in the main all the way. The wind vane isn't doing anything because there's no wind to steer by, so my options are sit in the cockpit and try to keep my bow pointed in the right direction, or say whatever and go below, go back to sleep. I'm doing the second one because I'm really tired. So this is where I am. I am going to drop a pin on my boat and then just see where I end up in relation to this pin. Oftentimes I do tend to stay outside and steer through this stuff, but there's really no reason. I'm not going anywhere. I just want to sleep. And the wind is forecast to be dead for the next 2 days, so I need to just take it easy, relax, and not worry so much about progress. 3.5 hours have passed since I made my last video. I have gone exactly 1.8 miles in the wrong direction. I'm waiting for this squall cloud that I see. It looks like it's full of rain to hit me, hopefully, because I really need to collect rainwater because I'm pretty sure I left French Polynesia with about 25 gallons of drinking water, which should get me all the way to Fiji. But it makes me nervous because it's not that much fresh water to have on a passage. So I'd love to collect more drinking water. I have my bucket here for collecting and a funnel for putting the water. I'm going to put it in the aft tank, and then these two little holes at the end of the boom you see just to the right of the preventer piss water when it's raining more efficiently than any rain collection device I've ever made. I can fill this whole bucket in about 10 minutes when it's really coming down. So if I do get rain down, that's what I'm going to start doing. Oh my gosh, I am sailing. Heyo. Heading, well, if that's east, I'm sort of probably going northeast. Sorry, northwest. No. Yep. Oh, pretty close to where I want to be going. I'll take it. Full sails. What? What? Maybe I can go back to sleep. There's the rain. Goodbye, rain. Oh my god, what a night. Rightio. So as I probably have been complaining about every day, I really don't have a lot of food on my boat, and I have raw ingredients, which means cooking things, which I'm usually just too placid to do at sea. But the biggest thing is that I have no treats. I have no chocolate, no hard candies, no chewing gum, none of my usual little treats and snacks that I like to sprinkle throughout my passage. What I do have is a monster. Is this little cookbook where when I find a recipe that I like, I write it down here. And I usually make it once or twice before I write it down because I always have my own little changes. But where is it? I have a recipe for candied almonds. And I do have all the ingredients for these, and they will make an excellent snack. This morning I ate a can of chickpeas for breakfast. I added curry and cinnamon and powdered milk and heated it up on the stove, and I was telling myself, this is chickpea curry. It's really good. So I've combined sugar, vanilla, cinnamon, and a little bit of butter in this pan. I'm going to turn the heat on, melt the sugar, and then right when it's at its boiling point, add 2 cups of almonds and stir until the sugar's coated on all the almonds. Okay, I just added the almonds, and now I'm stirring to make sure they're all thoroughly coated, and I will continue to do this until there's no liquid left in between them and it's just candied onto the almonds themselves. Okay, I just stirred these until the sugar started to crystallize, then spread them on this baking sheet to cool. Once they're cooled, it's snacking time. Oh yeah! The wind is back really nicely. Super confused about the weather. I know the wind died for about 6 hours because I got stuck in this clump of squalls, but it's supposed to be dropping off throughout the day, turning north and then northwest and then zero. I don't really know. It's so hard to predict when it's coming from this wind direction, so I'm trying to live in the moment and not worry about what's to come, but just focus on what is here, which at the moment is really nice wind and a tray of candied almonds. Yum! The wind is super funky. It's going steadily more and more north. It's all over the place, really, as far as strength goes. It's because I'm riding over the top of a big low pressure system that's currently hitting the Cook Islands, which is why I can't be there right now. and it's either going to clock all the way around and eventually come from the southeast, or die completely and then come from the southeast, which I'm not really sure which I prefer. I guess I'd rather it clock, because even if it's not the right wind direction, at least my sails will stay full, and even if I'm going sort of the wrong way, I can just put up a small amount of sail and just not be beating my sails to shit. But not really in my control, so I'm just going to enjoy what I have now, which is this. Ooh, this is spooky. It was a dark and stormy night. This small boat. Okay, so it's about 9:30 at night. I think the last time I recorded I was making candied almonds and the wind had come back up. So it stayed for the rest of the day, and now, as predicted, it's pretty much completely dead. So I took my head sail down. I put 2 reefs in the main and lashed the boom off pretty well with a stretchy line. It's important to leave the mainsail up so that it prevents rolling and kind of increases stability, but it's nice to put reefs in the main if you're just sitting in a no-wind situation, because it kind of saves the sail from the full thing getting slotted around. And with my main, now that it's a 2-reef situation, it doesn't actually make that much noise when I roll, which is amazing, and I wish I had figured that out last night. I was kind of too tired to do anything, but just sleep through it. So anyway, the wind is predicted to be kind of non-existent for the next 24 hours. It's so flat calm right now. This is another difference between tonight and last night, that even when I'm fully beam on to the swell, because I'm kind of just drifting in circles, it's not actually that bad. It's kind of like being in a rolly anchorage. And I do have the wind vane set so that if some wind comes up, I go in some direction, but honestly I'm not expecting to move much. I have put a point on the chart and labeled it with the time that I put the point there. And I'm just this is purely curiosity. I'm just gonna see what happens with me and this dot over the course of the night. Anyway, I grabbed the camera out because I'm sitting in the cockpit, there's no moon, and it's just brilliant stars. I wish I could share them with you. I can see Scorpio, the Big Dipper is out. I've started identifying actual stars themselves. The Milky Way is just stretched across the whole sky, and in between my boat rolling and the little sounds it makes, it's just dead quiet in a way that is really beautiful. So I am definitely trying to make the most of this night. I'm also really tired, so I do want to go to sleep eventually, but it's just so gorgeous out here right now. It's really nice. Who thought Becalmed could actually be enjoyable sometimes? Not me. So next morning, I've moved exactly 0.8 miles south in the last 11 hours. I had a really nice night of sleep. I didn't set my alarm, I just slept. What was gonna happen? I woke up because it's a little squally around me. But still not really any wind, not a ton of rain to speak of. Last night I could actually see the stars reflected in the water. It was that still. Right now there's a little more rippling action going on because of the squall stuff. But the swell is big. You can really see it now. Well, the wind is back in a very squally way. And I did put up my big head sail. I have not shaken the second reef out of the main because it's forecast to increase to about 20 knots throughout the day. I'm just sort of surrounded by squalls right now, so I'm sitting in the cockpit ready to take the sail down if I have to. I'm not really sure what the wind is doing at all. It's super shifty, mostly from the south, but sort of varying between southeast and southwest. So I'm just kind of here for the ride. So the squall has been kind of sitting over me for the past half hour. Actually for the past hour and a half, but it's just gotten squally in the past half hour. The wind is kind of between 0 to 20 knots from southwest to southeast randomly. Sometimes raining, hence the raincoat. I've collected a little bit of water off the reef pockets in the sail to use to make some quinoa later. I haven't been making these sorts of things because it uses too much of my precious drinking water, but basically I'm here getting rained on in the squalls until this thing is over, or until it mellows out. Maybe it'll be cloudy all day, but at least if the wind can pick a strength and a direction, that would be cool. I'm happy about the drinking water though, and yeah, that's about it. It's incredible how much the wind and the seas have picked up. Last night I saw stars reflected in the water. It was so flat and glassy. And today this huge swell is kind of coming up from the south, which makes sense because there's a big system south of me. And then all of these choppy waves. Oh my gosh. Ah. The weather doth lessen. Oh my gosh. Do you know what's crazy? Wearing a plastic hood makes me hear so much less of what's around me. Maybe that's not crazy. My hands are so pruny from all the rain. I really hope it stops raining soon. It seems like the wind is starting to become a little bit more consistent, which is cool. There's definitely still a ton of squall upwind of me, but I'm also seeing patches of blue sky. Really can't wait to just get what I'm gonna get with the trades, set sails, and go below for some lunch because it is 12:30 and I am hungry. So the wind is in a holding steady phase. It is starting to lighten up. I think I'm gonna take this opportunity to jump below and make quinoa with the rainwater that I've collected off the sail. I'm really excited to have a grain. It's really rolly in here right now because I don't have the head sail up because I'm not sure how much wind is gonna come after this squall, and I'm just nervous to put up a big sail. So it's kind of tricky to do anything. I spy blue sky. Come on, Mr. Blue. So I cooked my quinoa and then I added a can of diced tomatoes, and call me many things, but do not call me uninventive because my boat is just rolling like a barrel. And so I mix everything up in the pot and then put the food back into the can to eat it out of so that I don't have to wash a bowl. Pretty cool, huh? Pro tips, more coming at you every day. For the past couple days, I've been noticing this problem with my wind vane where I will set the paddle to a certain wind direction, but when it's blowing more than 20, the wind is actually able to change the angle of the paddle itself and adjust my course, which is super annoying because the windier it gets, the more, like right now, it's probably blowing 25 and I've been up every 10 minutes or so to readjust the wind vane. So I was poking around, trying to figure out what was going wrong with it, sort of starting with the string that I used to adjust the wind paddle part and then going through all the mechanisms. And I realized that what's wrong is that the chain, which is like a bike chain, is stretched out too far and it's loose, which allows those little gears to move on their own instead of only moving when the string is moved, which in turn is causing the wind vane to reset itself. So I thought, alright, I'm not going to be able to fix that underway, obviously, but what can I do to sort of temporarily hold it in place while I'm sailing and it's really nasty weather and I don't want to be sitting in the cockpit dicking around with my course every 10 minutes. So the solution I've come up with is to just tie a little string through one of the links and tie it off to the side of the wind vane. This tightens the chain enough that the paddle isn't able to move on its own. Of course, this means that anytime I need to adjust the wind vane, I have to untie and retie the string, but I think ultimately that will be less fiddling than the every 10 minutes that I've been doing now. So the sun is set. My wind vane fix is holding pretty well, actually. I've modified it so that now the string that I have that is tied around the bike chain wraps around at a perpendicular angle to the chain around one of the supports of the wind vane, and then comes all the way back to the cockpit, so I can tighten and loosen it from the cockpit, so if I need to change course I don't have to reach over and you know, lean over the back of my boat. I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I know I have to sleep, but it's so beautiful outside with the stars. I just don't want to sleep. I want to lie in the cockpit all night, and then I get really tired the next day because I, for whatever reason, can't really nap during the day. Design flaw, I guess. Well, it's a new day. I officially crossed the 1,000 miles to go mark last night. I'm surfing 9.5 knots down the backs of some of these waves. This is so crazy. Thank you guys for watching this week's video. I put out new videos on YouTube every 2 weeks. And for my patrons, you guys get a snack on the weeks I don't put out a YouTube. If you'd like to join me on Patreon, you can get exclusive access to all of the snacks that I've published. I also take requests from you guys to make videos about certain things I do on my boat, parts of my life that I don't share with YouTube, like if you have any specific questions about my rig or how I do a certain operation, then I'm always happy to make videos just for you guys to explain a little more in depth about how I'm doing what I'm doing. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie. For one-time donations, I have a PayPal, paypal.me/windhippie, and if you'd like merchandise, I have some sick shirts and other stuff. In the description below, there's a link to my online website shop of wonderful things. I should probably think these thingies through before I start talking, but I never do. Thank you, Tish, for helping me to schedule these videos on YouTube and get them up on time. Thank you guys for just being such an awesome community and always being supportive and loving of me. I really appreciate it. And I was just talking to one of my friends this morning, and she asked, sorry, it's kind of a busy Anchorage that I'm in right now. She asked me how it was, you know, being on YouTube and how I deal with the negative comments, and I was like, you know what, I don't really get any, which is just so cool. This edit is coming to you from Fiji. Yes, I arrived. Yes, I survived. I did not get scurvy. And it is so hot on my boat right now, and I'm just finishing up a couple videos in a row so that I can go spend a month offline. So just sitting under the fan, working away on my laptop, trying to get these edits out for you guys. Anyway, thanks for watching. Patrons, I'll see you guys next week. YouTubers, I'll see you in another 2 weeks.